The world of music is never without its dramas, and a prime example is Sting and his current lawsuit that's going on. Sting's former bandmates in The Police, guitarist Andy Summers and drummer Stewart Copeland, filed a lawsuit in the London High Court claiming they were not properly credited or paid royalties for their contributions to the band's hugely successful catalog, particularly the 1983 hit Every Breath You Take. They argue that they are owed money for income from the digital exploitation of the band's music, and their claim is reportedly worth millions in unpaid royalties. This legal action revives old disputes about how publishing and royalty income was shared in The Police, a band that became one of the most commercially successful acts in the late 70s and early 80s. Sting hasn't given a direct public statement about the lawsuit itself, but his lawyers have responded in court filings. They argue that the lawsuit is an illegitimate attempt to reinterpret prior agreements about payments. Sting may have actually overpaid Summers and Copeland under the terms of a 2016 agreement designed to settle earlier disputes over royalties. The legal defense claims Sting has already met his obligations and that the plaintiff's reading of historic agreements is incorrect. Every Breath You Take remains one of the band's biggest global hits, generating significant ongoing income, up to the tune of over $500,000 yearly. Multiply that by almost 40, and the numbers are staggering. Sting is officially credited as the song's sole songwriter, which is central to the dispute over who gets paid what. The Police originally formed in 1977 and broke up in 1984, though they have been reunited for tours over the years. The original royalty and contract arrangements from that era are long-standing points of contention. So far, there is no direct public comment from Sting himself on the lawsuit, only responses from his legal team. Ironically, Sting sold his catalog to UMG for over $300 million. And it quietly exposes the truth that many people don't want to confront. It just goes to show you what this is really about. The lawsuit that we're going through in the media regarding AI isn't about technology, it's about ownership. It's about leverage, it's about timing. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Human music has always had authorship conflict. These two individuals believe that their contributions made the song what it is and therefore should have songwriting credit. For decades, bands functioned under an illusion of shared creation. One person writes the song, others bring it to life. Everyone benefits until the money becomes massive. In Every Breath You Take, Sting wrote the lyrics and the melody. Summers created the defining riff. Copeland shaped the feel. Legally, one songwriter. Creatively, a collective moment. That tension existed long before AI, streaming, or tech companies. AI didn't create the problem. It just exposed it faster. Catalog sales turned old wounds into lawsuits. You see, the key trigger here isn't 1983. It's 2022, when Sting sold his catalog to Universal for about $300 million. That's the same pattern we're seeing now. Artists selling catalogs, rights becoming financial instruments, legacy contributions suddenly being reevaluated. Once rights are monetized at that scale, every credit matters, every percentage becomes existential, every past compromise gets reopened. This is exactly why labels are nervous about AI, not because AI creates music, but because it forces clarity about who really owns what. Labels fear ambiguity more than imitation. UMG, WMG, Sony, they're not panicking because AI can make songs. They're panicking because AI challenges attribution, authorship, royalty chains, legacy contracts written decades ago. If courts start asking, what actually constitutes authorship? Then suddenly, producers, session players, arrangers, engineers, and of course, AI-assisted agents or creators all become part of a much messier picture. The Sting case reminds everyone we've been living with fuzzy definitions for 50 years. AI just makes that fuzziness impossible to ignore. Suno isn't the villain, it's the mirror. Platforms like Suno are being treated as the threat, but look closer. Suno says paid users own output. Free users get limited rights. Style is not the same as ownership. Human input matters. That's actually cleaner than many historic band arrangements. Isn't it ironic? AI platforms are spelling things out, and legacy music deals never ever did on that level. The police didn't have GitHub-style version history. They didn't have prompt logs. They didn't have contribution tracking. But AI systems do. That terrifies an industry built on creative ambiguity. You see, my friends, this lawsuit strengthens the AI argument. It doesn't weaken it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If every breath you take were created today, contributions would be documented, splits would be negotiated up front, and credits would be explicit. Royalties would be algorithmically tracked. Instead, we're in court 40 years later. So when labels argue AI threatens artists, what they mean is AI threatens legacy power structures that benefited from vague authorship. The real reason for AI musicians can be gleaned from this case because it sends a loud message to AI creators that intent matters, documentation matters, original human contributions, lyrics, chords, melody, beats as well. It matters. Ownership clarity matters, which is exactly what I've been preaching all the while. Write your lyrics. Write your melodies, my friends. Use AI as arranger, producer, amplifier. Pay for the tools. Be transparent. The approach is actually more defensible than half of rock history. The final thing I want you to take away is the music industry is not suddenly becoming unfair because of AI. It's finally being forced to reckon with fairness it avoided for decades. Sting versus the police isn't an AI story. It's a precedent story. And the outcome will echo straight into AI music lawsuits, label negotiations, platform policies, creator rights in the next decade. Because you do know UMG is front and center of all this. After all, they're the ones with the bag in hand. All that great catalog content. Now they have to be front and center along with Sting in this rather interesting case. The civil case filed at the High Court in London was brought by guitarist Andy Summers and drummer Stewart Copeland. They claimed they were underpaid for their contributions to major police recordings, including Roxanne and Every Breath You Take. While neither Summers nor Copeland received formal songwriting credit on those songs. They argue that the band entered into an agreement early in their career to share certain publishing income regardless of who was officially credited as the songwriter. According to Summers and Copeland, this arrangement began as an oral agreement in 1977, shortly after the band formed, and was later formalized through written contracts. The intent, they claim, was to acknowledge the creative and commercial value of each member's contribution, even when one person, primarily Sting, wrote the lyrics and melody. Sting, whose real name is Gordon Sumner, has strongly denied underpaying his bandmates. In court filings, his legal team described the claims as illegitimate, arguing that he has met, and in some cases exceeded, his contractual obligations. They further contend that later agreements explicitly close the door on any future or historic royalty claims. A band built on success and tension. The Police formed in 1977 and rapidly became one of the most successful British bands of the late 1970s and early 1980s. Their fifth album, Synchronicity, released in 1983, included Every Breath You Take, which reached #1 in the United States and went on to become one of the most played radio songs of all time. The track later gained renewed prominence after being sampled in P. Diddy and Faith Evans' 1997 hit, I'll Be Missing You. Despite their success, the band split in 1984 amid deep personal and creative tensions. Stewart Copeland later described the recording sessions for Synchronicity as very dark, saying the band members beat the crap out of each other emotionally and professionally during that period. Sting has since spoken openly about his frustration during those years. In a 2022 interview, he said he felt constrained by the band dynamic, explaining that while he would write enough material for a full album, he was also required to consider songs written by the other members that he believed were weaker. Explaining to someone why their song isn't working is a bit like saying their girlfriend's ugly, he said. It's a very personal thing. Contributions versus credits. While Sting was the primary songwriter for the Police's biggest hits, both Summers and Copeland made significant musical contributions to the band's sound. Summers has long claimed that he originated the now iconic guitar riff on Every Breath You Take, while Copeland's distinctive drumming style shaped the band's rhythmic identity. Documents submitted to the High Court show that in 1977, the band agreed that when one member received publishing income for a song they had written, they would share a portion, typically around 15%, with the other two members. This payment was described as an arranger's fee. However, the origins of this agreement are disputed. Summers recalls it being agreed upon informally on a street outside their manager Miles Copeland's office in Notting Hill. Sting, on the other hand, argues that there was no oral agreement, stating instead that Miles Copeland suggested the idea during a visit to Sting's flat in Bayswater as a way to keep things sweet with the band, without Summers or Copeland present. Regardless of how it began, the arrangement was later formalized in 1981 and revised again in 1995 and 2016. The legal fault line: royalties. At the heart of the current dispute is a technical but crucial question: which types of royalties Summers and Copeland are entitled to receive. Music publishing income is generally divided into two main categories: performance royalties, paid when a song is played publicly, such as on radio, television, or streaming platforms. Mechanical royalties paid when a song is reproduced, including physical formats like vinyl and CD, as well as on-demand streaming. Summers and Copeland argue that their agreement entitles them to a share of both categories. Sting maintains that the agreement covers only mechanical royalties. Sting's lawyers also argue that under the terms of the 2016 agreement, all three members agreed not to pursue any past or future royalty claims. Summers and Copeland dispute this interpretation, asserting that the agreement does not prevent them from challenging how those terms were applied. The claim is estimated to be worth approximately £1.5 million. Sting's legal team denies any underpayment and argues that Summers and Copeland may, in fact, owe him money due to alleged overpayments. Why this matters now. The timing of the lawsuit is significant. In 2022, Sting sold the rights to his songwriting catalog, including both his solo work and songs he wrote for the Police, to Universal Music Group. The deal was reportedly worth around $200 million. Once music rights are monetized at that scale, every credit, percentage point, and historical agreement becomes far more consequential. What may have once been tolerated as a loose or ambiguous arrangement can quickly turn into a high-stakes legal dispute. And in that sense, the case is not just about the Police or one song, it's about how creative contributions are defined, documented, and valued long after the music is made. AI didn't break the system. It revealed where the cracks always were.